It's time for the Trading Stocks Made Easy podcast. Each week, Trading Stocks Made Easy demystifies stock trading and investing so you can profit big. And now, here's the host of Trading Stocks Made Easy, the wealthy investor, Tyrone Jackson.
And welcome back to Trading Stocks Made Easy. This is Tyrone Jackson, the wealthy investor. I am so happy that you've taken time out of your day to join me on this. Hey, listen, if you haven't already opened a stock market trading account, you know how I feel about TD Ameritrade. Now, they're not a sponsor of the show and not connected in any way, but I really find that their software is the best for people who are beginning. And really what you need is the language of the stock market. So make sure that you visit thewealthyinvestor.net because that's really where you're going to learn about the language of the stock market and what basic strategies you should use and even what your first stock picks should be. Well, joining me here in the studio is one of my favorite students. His name is Zane Mark, and we're going to talk to him in just a second, not only about his esteemed career on Broadway as a musician, but he can also add stock market trader and investor to that title. Welcome, Zane. Thank you for being here.
It's great to be here, Tyrone.
Now, you've done a lot of things. You're you're very humble. So you're looking down as I'm going through. You're also a very successful musician and conductor on Broadway. Your family has made Broadway history because you've been on Broadway while your wife's been on Broadway and your daughter's been on Broadway. Is that correct?
This is true.
Okay. Before we get into, and listen, this is before I knew you. You were one of the composers or the composer on a show called Bring in the Noise, Bring in the Funk.
A co-composer. Right?
Co-composer. Okay. Let's just talk a little bit about your career because you also come from an entertainment family. Your father was a trumpeter?
My father was a reed player, actually, the Woodwind family. So if you play on Broadway, you have to play clarinet, saxophones, flutes. You have to play the whole woodwind instrument, all of them. As a doubler, you have to play all the instruments. But yeah, my father was a reed player. Played with the Ellington Band for a while, then started doing Broadway stuff. So, one of the bigger kicks for me when I was doing Noise Funk, I was able to hire my father to play in the band under me. So it was kind of weird standing or sitting on the podium and looking down and seeing my father in the pit. Kind of like a weird 360 circle thing, but yeah.
But you got to tell him what to do. Slower, faster, softer.
Yeah, well, tempered with a little grain of salt there.
Well, that's a really wonderful thing. So I didn't even know that there's even like another generation.
Well, yeah, so it's my father to me, and my daughter just finished doing a show down in Baltimore about Bob Marley called Marley. But before that, she was doing Motown on Broadway. So it's a whole thing going on here with us.
Did you always want to be a musician?
Yeah, I never had a quote-unquote regular job, and I've always been a musician, be it writing or playing or something. That's always what I've done.
Now, tell me about your rise from musician to conductor, because you've conducted your share of Broadway shows as well, right?
I've done a few. It kind of started with Noise Funk, because before that I was more like taking groups on the road or artists on the road as their musical director, or working in a recording studio during the disco days. And, you go and you play your track with nobody else in the room as a keyboard player. But when we did Noise Funk, my buddy Daryl Waters asked me to come in and, help him out because he wasn't going to be there that long. And could I step in and do some of this job for him? And long story short, we started writing with another person. And we came up with the show. I realized that I could do other things in the writing department as far as arranging and orchestrating. And because of Noise Funk, I was able to get some other jobs where, as an African American on Broadway, those probably wouldn't have been as readily available to me. But because of that, I hooked up with a choreographer named Jerry Mitchell, very famous guy, and we did the Full Monty, and I was his dance music arranger. And so from there, I started doing more dance music arranging things, a couple of orchestrating things, and now I'm doing primarily more writing and orchestrating and arranging than actually playing. So it's kind of like I'm doing a couple of film projects, so I get to play, but most of it is in the studio by myself. I'm playing, so I get to send the tracks out to other live musicians. But because the stuff has to get turned over so fast that I'm doing most of it out of my studio by myself. So that's the drag. So I'm hoping to get some other projects where I can get bigger rooms, bigger budgets, and hire more of my people.
Now, the thing that's interesting about the life that you live, although you're not an actor, you really go from show to show or opportunity to opportunity. Because in the opportunities, in the moments when we've had a chance to talk, there's always some celebrity who says, Zane, can you help me do this? Or a cabaret or a potential Broadway show. But you're going, essentially, even with your wonderful credentials, you're going from job to job, right?
But that's most musicians, unless you're in a band, that's what you do. You go from A to B to A to B to C to G to, and you keep stepping along. And I guess the goal is to be prepared for whatever shows up so that you can go from this one to that one. So, on Broadway, I'm kind of like the non-traditional guy. Most of the shows that I've had success with, I was called in to do non-traditional stuff. They're not going to call me to do the revival of Cats or Les Mis. That's not what I'm going to do. And I'm going to say 85% of the shows I've done have been this non-traditional thing, but I can do other things. And I have to be able to do other things if I want to go from show to show to project. So that's just kind of like the nature of the beast.
But A, you accept that. And B, you've had 3 shows on Broadway at one time. I know this because you told me, you were like, I can remember when I had, was it 2 shows? Maybe I'm just being, I know you had at least 2 shows on Broadway at one time. There was All Shook Up at one point.
Oh, yeah.
And then there was, I know his resume better than he knows his resume. That's scary. There was All Shook Up. There was Bringing the Noise, Bringing the Funk. And then there was another show.
But I don't think they weren't at the same time. But I think there were 3 shows out. They might not have all been on Broadway at the same time, but there might have been a road company out.
Okay, it was a road company because you said to me once, I'm getting 3 paychecks.
Yeah. Well, we coined the phrase PIG, P-I-G. Passive income generator. Okay. And so, again, you write dance arrangements for one show or orchestrations for one show. Like I worked on Motown, so I did the dance arrangements for Motown. So I'm blessed enough to get paid for Motown on Broadway. Motown, the road company, they're getting ready to open up a London company. And they closed on New York, but they're going to reopen hopefully in the beginning of the year. So each show that goes out, there'll be a check for me. And that's the PIG, that I just don't have to, I did it, set it and forget it, that guy or that sells the stuff. And that's the gig. So again, I say my job is to be prepared to do whatever I'm asked to do. So yeah, I'm blessed, man.
Yes.
Me and my family.
But here's the thing, and you are tremendous because you're all tremendously talented. But here's the thing, Zane, and and most of my audience members know, I wound up teaching a lot of people in the entertainment business how to trade in the stock market. So let's get to the stock market because you were one of those people that said when the money first started coming in and your career as a composer really started to take off, you were getting these checks, and for some reason you couldn't really explain, you just started buying Apple stock.
I had written a couple of songs for a couple of different artists, and I wasn't really a songwriter per se, but when you start doing that and you get that first check from ASCAP, it's like, oh, that's nice. And then you get the second check. It's always like the second or third check, and you're like, oh, man.
There's money in this.
So, and so having my father be a musician, there were days where he made a lot of money, and there were days where he didn't make any money. But our lifestyle was always even. And so when we were all 5 of us living in a 1-bedroom apartment, that was one thing. And then we moved into a 3-bedroom apartment, that was another. And, as we moving on up, things were always the same. There were no like big giant cars outside or anything, but our lifestyle was the same. So what that taught me was, prepare for the good times, prepare for the bad times, but keep moving forward. So when I started getting those checks, I'm like, oh, crap, what do I do with all this? My father taught us, you save, you tuck it away, you don't blow it all right now. But when we started doing Noise Funk and the really nice checks were coming in, I was just basically buying stock in mutual funds. And at that time, I could just close my eyes, put my finger on the stock market page, pick one out of the blue, and they did well. So there was no like genius part on my thing. And for some reason, I think we were buying a house or something, which I took a lot of the money out. And that's when everything went to south. Let's just call it south.
Right.
So it wasn't like, oh, Zane timed the market great. No, man, I just kind of lucked up. And that was it. But the long and the short of it was, and that's kind of what brought me to your class, was I still had the mindset I need to do this. And there were a couple of stocks that I would buy, but I was just kind of willy-nilly out there guessing. There was no rhyme or reason. There was no, why are you buying this stock? Why are you doing what you're doing? And because it never went south on me, that was never an issue. And I didn't have to worry about that, but I should have been. And so again, I'm very blessed that I didn't lose everything and everything I had, because I was doing some really stupid, foolish things with my money.
And why the stock market? Was it just that you were trying to do something intelligent with money?
Well, that may be. I mean, my mother and father, their thing were bonds and CDs. You just buy it, stick it away, and, keep your fingers crossed. And that was that. But I vividly remember, actually recently I've done it also. I was in, well, I guess I shouldn't say the name of the bank, but I was in a bank waiting online to deposit a check that I couldn't deposit at the ATM. And they were advertising like, this is the greatest thing in the world. Look how high our rates are. And it was for like a 3-year CD. And I think it was less than 1%. And I'm going, 1%? I'm going to give you all of my money. You're going to hold it for 3 years and give me 1%. I can make 1% with what I know now overnight. And it could be a lot more than 1%. So 1%, I'm like, really? That's, And I think what it is it's sad that, if you know what the cost of living is, and whatever that number is today, 1% ain't cutting it. There are a lot of us, especially people of color, that I don't know how. People that do have money, they teach their children, this is what you need to do, this you need. But if you come from no money, then you need to go somewhere and figure that out. And you need to at least identify, if you make $1 a week for 52 weeks, and your bills come out to $60 a year, you're going to have a problem, and you need to do something else. And if the big boys are doing that, I'm not a big boy, just take a couple of zeros off my bottom line. I can still play that game. And that's one of the major things I've learned coming to your program.
Well, I talk a lot about getting a financial education, and boy, has your world changed. We're going to go to commercial, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Zane Mark about this financial education that he now has and how his life would have been different without it. Back in a moment.
You're listening to the Trading Stocks Made Easy podcast. Want to learn more about how to trade and invest in the stock market? Visit thewealthyinvestor.net/products. That's thewealthyinvestor.net/products and order the Wealthy Investor's Guide to Stock Market Success audio series. This easy-to-follow 5-CD audio series and manual will teach you the basics of how to buy and sell stocks, how to collect quarterly dividends for life, plus hidden income generating strategies like covered call writing and volatility trading. Start creating financial freedom right now. Get the financial education you need to get ahead. Visit thewealthyinvestor.net/products.
Wealthy Investor, Wealthy Investor, WealthyInvestorRadio.com.
And welcome back to Trading Stocks Made Easy. Tyrone Jackson, the Wealthy Investor. Thanking you once again for joining us. Very special guest, Broadway writer, composer, musician, window washer. This guy will do it all if it involves music. This is Zane Mark. We were talking during the commercial about the power of a financial education. And, most people know my story by now. My mother told me just get a job when you grow up and get overtime. There was no investing. Just get overtime so you can maybe pay your bills. As a musician, your father was living proof that it was possible to be successful as a musician, right?
Well, like I said, a lot of my friends in the little bands that I played in wanted to be musicians. That was their goal. And they weren't thinking any more than I want to play whatever. But their parents, a lot of them, most of them were saying, that's a good hobby, but it's not a real job. That can't be. That's a pipe dream. And they would go, well, look at Zane's father. He's supporting, their family. He's a musician. That's all he does. And it can't happen. So that kind of would slow them down. But, mom is mom, dad is dad. No, you're going to go to school and study, blah, 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 blah. I went to Music and Art High School, and there were some killers, just instrumentalists and singers. And I remember graduating and going back to like the 5-year reunion. I think it might have been 5 years. And it was like this killer trumpet player, this wonderful bass player. I'm like, what are you doing now? And I'm doing something else. Well, do you still play? Nah. And I'm like, well, how was I so blessed to be able to move on? And these guys, and I'm like, if I had a half of this guy's talent, but, I guess where your heart is, where your mind is, where your energy is, and just two different paths. But I'm going back to the I'm blessed line. I'm going to stick with that.
Well, you truly are. Let's talk about this financial education you've gotten as it relates to the stock market. What does that mean to you to have learned? I mean, you've studied hard over the past 4 or 5 years, whatever it's been. How has that shaped your world and made you different?
It goes back to that sign at the bank. I need to be able to do something with the money that's coming in. If I just stick it in the mattress, it's not going to keep up with inflation. If I just throw it willy-nilly into the stock market, I'm begging to lose it all. No one, I guess, just like they need to have a class on parenthood, there needs to be a class on how do you deal with your money. And I don't care what profession you are, if you're successful, you're going to make some money and you should know what to do with it. And what do the guys that have a whole lot of money, what are they doing? Maybe I should mimic them. Maybe I should, see kind of what they're doing. I can't deal with the zeros that they have, but I can do something similar, safer. I'm not trying to be a millionaire overnight, but I think I can do something safer on a regular basis and bring in X amount of income, a certain percentage, month after month after month, so that you get rid of the worry factor. And once the worry factor with money, and a lot of people have that, is gone, that frees your brain up, your heart up, your soul up, your energy up to do something else, hopefully the things that you want to do. But if you're concerned about, I really want to go out and do X, Y, and Z, but how am I going to pay my light bill tomorrow? Then you're kind of stuck there. And if you don't have to worry about that, you talk about financial freedom, that's a different definition for everybody. For me, it might be $2 a week. For you, it might be $20 a week. But whatever that number is, if you can achieve that, and then once you get there, you want to up that number for yourself, great. But that knocks out the worry part. And once the worry is gone, you can do a whole bunch of other things. The sky's the limit.
Well, I think the worry has diminished for you somewhat.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask you this. What is your favorite stock? How do you see building wealth? Where do you see yourself as a stock market trader and investor in the next 5 years? You've done well.
My favorite stock, I think I might have to say Disney right now. It was McDonald's, but they kind of, there was a time when McDonald's could do no wrong. And but I think right now it's Disney. There's so many other things in their wheelhouse that they have coming up that are just like, how can this fail? And so right now that stock is doing very well. They just announced that they're going to split their dividend. So instead of annually, it's going to be bi. So there's a whole bunch of things going on. And if I had to pick one right this very moment, it would be Disney.
Now, how long have you been investing in Disney shares? Doesn't mean it's right for everybody listening. This is just Zane's favorite pick.
Today. And the only thing that would make Disney perfect is if they paid their dividend quarterly.
Yeah, that would be great.
But I'm going to say about a little over a year.
Okay.
I mean, as my McDonald's replacement.
Yes. What other stocks? It says Disney, if that's in the number one position, what other stocks?
Well, right now, because the market is doing all kind of crazy things, I try to follow my teacher and basically trade stocks that pay a dividend. They're not going to be as crazy to drop should something horrible happen in the world. And that's been good for me. So today I own Home Depot. I think I know the Dow components. Well, the only non-Dow component that I own right now would be Starbucks. And it's not like 90% of my portfolio either. So it's just a small part. And one of the other things I learned from you that's helped me and really been working well is the allocation of my portfolio. How much money do I have in this? How much money do I have in this? So the trading is one thing, but the investing has been ridiculous for me. And so like Disney as just buy it, park it over there in the corner, and use that money for margin or whatever it is, but it's been very successful for me.
Yes.
So
yes. Now, there's a difference between an investment, a stock that you're going to hold for a number of years and let it rise, because what we say in the Wealthy Investor Program, we understand the story. Then there are stocks that you trade. You jump in and out. I would imagine because of your lifestyle, there are times you can log into your account, and there are other times when we call them triggers or sell orders, where you're just letting the market sell you out of a stock. What stocks do you like right now in that?
Well, I'm volatility trading the ETF, the Qs. That's another major component of my portfolio. It kind of just depends. Like I said, there's a lot of Home Depot. I'm using American Express. I got a couple of things in there, but for the most part, they're all Dow components. It's a little more conservative on my part, and the only quote-unquote non-conservative one would be the Starbucks right now. But because the market seems to be not making any sense, like, well, it did this one, this happens, that happens. There seems to be no rhyme or reason right about now. So this year in particular, it's been a lot better for me because I've been primarily in Dow components, and so my portfolio is in flip-flopping all over the place.
And are you one of those people that will trade anything, or do you feel like you really need to understand what the company does? We call that the story.
Well, I've pulled many a newbie in the class over in the corner and just go, people come to class and you come in and you say, check out the story on this stock. And you show them a stock and you go, look at the numbers, look at the charts, look at the earnings. And that's this month. And next month, there's a whole nother stock and so these people look into their accounts and they have 4 shares of 6 million different positions and you really can't do anything. But more importantly, you can't keep up with the company. You don't know what the company's doing or not doing because you have so many positions that you're trying to watch with. So another thing with my allocation is if I find that I have more than 5 positions, for me, that's kind of like the limit for me. I'm not going to do anymore because I can't keep up with 20 different stocks. But I remember in the beginning, I don't want to miss out on that. Crocs and all the other
right, Lululemon,
all of those.
Right.
I'm like, I want to be part of that. I want to be part of it. And what happened was, it's a lot easier to trade profitably 5 contracts of something than 1. So by the time the fees get you, I think your magic number is 3. So mine is 5. I'm trying to get in 5. In multiples of 5, 10s, 15, depending on what the position is. And that seems to be working with me. Trading 1, the fees are not worth it. That's kind of what I do. Okay. And so I leave that. But I remember in the beginning, I just wanted to be in on everything. And, I'm trading, look, I made $60. Yeah, but they got like 20 of it in fees. And so now you made $40 and it took you a whole month to make $40 on that one contract. Okay, maybe next month I'll save up and get 2 contracts and knock out that other thing on the side that's not doing anything or just going to be going. When I first joined the class, I think I had like 400 shares of Chevron and I just wanted to write a covered call. I didn't realize, had no idea what my cost basis was. I didn't know, I got 300 shares of Chevron. I can write a covered call. Let's go. No, you can't. And so there has to be a rhyme or reason. And I think the new direction that the class is taking, which I think is, smart for all of us, is that what's going to happen if everything goes right. What happens if this don't go right? Right. What happens? And so I think, you talk about what your favorite trade is. I think my favorite trade is the simple covered call. I think I really understand how that works inside and out. Volatility trading is one thing if it's just stocks. It's another thing if it's just options. But the covered call, I get that. I know what happens if that position goes up, if it goes down, how to get out of it, how to still be profitable all the way around. And that's only because I know what's going to go on. I've done some semblance of homework. And so if you keep those positions small, you're like, okay, man, I have these 3 stocks. I know these 3 companies. I know what to expect for them year in and year out. This is normal for them. And so I see something, I don't panic. And I guess being the musician and my whole lifestyle of phone hasn't rang in 3 months or whatever it is, but no problem. I still have my pigs. I don't worry. And I see a lot of people that start the class and then drop out because they've done something stupid on their own or some uncle or somebody told them, you really need to go get involved in Crocs or whatever it is, and look what happened to you.
Yeah, the stock of the day.
Yes. Whatever it is. And so you messed up.
Right.
And it wasn't necessarily bad. It's just that you didn't do the homework. And had you done the homework and figured out what'll happen if this thing goes wrong, you might have made a different decision.
Final question, because we do have to go. Tell me about what this financial education that you now have has meant to you, your daughter, your wife, and the rest of your family.
My daughter don't really know too much about this yet, and we're still talking money. My wife actually was the one that actually got me into the class. She was actually going to be taking it, and it was a friend of hers that invited her to join, but she was doing a show, and so it's Saturdays we first? Yeah, so Saturdays, if you're on Broadway, there's 2 shows, so she couldn't get in. She said, Zane, why don't you check it out? And I've been in a couple of, real estate things. And then, and so I said, okay, I'm in. And I got in and it made sense to me. So I'm in. So again, understanding what the cost of living is, knowing that I need to keep up with that and then surpass it and not have to rely on somebody calling me or my 1% for 3 years over at the bank in my CD lets me just relax. And, I'm good. I'm not like in panic mode, that's kind of like, all right, man. And it's not like I got some Ouija board at home or some, I'm burning roots. I'm just like, it's going to happen. It always does. And I'm doing my part, so I'm cool. I'm good. So my financial education is helping me to be cool, to make sense with my life, my lifestyle. And then it helps that, my wife is supportive. My brother, the people around me understand what I'm doing, and they're like, okay, cool. So I manage my account. I have like another account with 2 other women that I manage. And my parents have a trust fund, long story, but we set up a trust fund for my parents. And so I manage that as well. And we're cool. Like the women that I manage, they don't even look in the account. I'm like, I got your money. I can just run off to Spain tomorrow. I'm like, yeah, whatever. They trust me. And they're like, well, here we are. We're good. So that mindset is just like, it's going to be okay. Now, if you told me, here's $10,000 in this trade. Wait. Hold on. And it dropped 2%. Okay. But we'll make up something next month. Or, so my attitude, my vibe is different. And I think this system, this class, works with my being. And that's why I've been here 5-something years, whatever it is. And, I'm good, man. I'm good.
Well, congratulations, because you're really doing wonderful things for your family. And I love the fact that of all the sophisticated trades that the cover calls seem to work the best.
I'm a basic guy. I'm a kind of, yeah. But it's what I understand completely now. Next year, it might be something else. I'm flexing a whole bunch of muscles here, but this one is good. This one don't have a Charlie horse in it or cramping up on me. I don't have to rub it every now and then. So I'm good.
Nothing like that predictable money that comes from cover call writing.
Yeah, man.
Thank you for coming in and spending some time.
Thank you.
This has been Zane Mark. Hey, that music is telling me I have to go, but I'm going to see you right back here on iTunes at Trading Stocks Made Easy. Get your account open and become a covered call writer. It's guaranteed money, gang. Guaranteed money month after month from the stock market. Until next time, it's Tyrone Jackson, the Wealthy Investor, saying, happy trading.
You've been listening to the Trading Stocks Made Easy podcast. Be sure to rate and review our show on iTunes. While you're on iTunes, be sure to click the subscribe button and you'll automatically receive our next episode.